In this video we're going to be adding our final details to the helmet build. You'll see here I've cut out some thin EVA foam which will go on the outside of the T-visor that's mounted to the helmet. I'm going to do something a little different here because I'm going to be casting a silicone mold. Before we do that, we're going to draw up some patterns for our earpieces. Once we get the dimensions correct and we are satisfied with the end result, we'll make a base piece, and then we'll actually cut those patterns out and get ready to transfer those over to our basswood that we're going to be using to shape these earpieces. You'll notice this piece here, you won't have to cut out 3 individual pieces. I took 3 pieces of wood, glued them together, and then cut them out. Also, I used a sharp edge and went ahead and cut some lines here because you're also going to transfer these lines onto your piece. Again, I'm using basswood because it's soft and you can carve it. The Prop Master did a very good video on how to shape earpieces out of wood. I've also shown folks how to make these earpieces out of wood and turn them into plastic resin molds in a previous video. And again, I made these designs based on photos and rewatching video segments of The Mandalorian. And you'll see here the basswood. I've put a couple of pieces together here just to add some thickness, and then you'll see some of that's our base that goes on either side of the helmet, as well as some of our detail pieces. To get this cut out, I'm actually using what's called a coping saw. I've never used one before, but with a little patience, taking your time and attention to detail, you will be able to get some really good cuts. As you can see here, the base that will go ahead and mount to either side of the helmet for the earpieces, as well as the earpieces themselves. Again, I said I went ahead and made some molds from these wood carvings. I wasn't entirely satisfied with the upper part of the earpiece just because the angle was off, so I went ahead and cut out some new pieces and shaped them. And then I also started the vent on the very back. So you want to go ahead and cut those pieces out. I taped them together because I wanted to make sure that they had the same edges as I sanded them down. So then I would have 2 identical pieces, and then I added the foam fins, and here's our end result. And this is what goes into the very back of the helmet. Some folks call it the key slot, but here it looks more like vents. And then we're going to go ahead and return to the front and glue down that T-visor, the exterior. So if you're making a helmet just for fun, you can put your visor in at this point. Remember, the Mandalorian mercs do not accept foam builds. But if you wanted to just make a helmet, a temporary helmet, a quick one, you could put your visor in at this point. But like I said, I was making a resin cast and a mold, so I wanted to ensure that I saved those welding visors for the final product. Went ahead and covered the entire helmet with Epsilon Pro, which was an epoxy coating, and started sanding down. You can see here I added the center strip as well as the top strip that goes all the way across the T-visor. The epoxy coating is easily sandable, and it will leave some of your low points, which are a lot of the shiny areas. You're going to need a lot of sanding to get this completely smooth, and you want to focus on the sharp edges. You can see on both the left and right cheeks I have quite a few drip marks here, so I'm going to have to go back in and sand those down, as well as use a lot of filler putty to get a smooth end product. But like I said, if this was just a fun build, this would be an area where you could perhaps sand this down and paint it, but I was going to make a mold. I also want to thank you folks for following. You can subscribe to this channel if you want to see this build in its entirety, or go back and rewatch some of the videos I've already posted. In our next video, we're going to be actually building the mother mold for the silicone. I also went back here, filled in some of the finer details using an epoxy that I saw Punish Props using. And this will fill in a lot of the low spots, as well as if you still have any gaps in your seams. I used a silver Sharpie to identify where I was going to apply this, and again just took my time, used the filler putty. You'll see I'm using a wood spatula to apply that here. You could use your finger. You don't have to get as detailed on this as I was, but you want to make sure that you cover as many of these imperfections as possible, because that Mandalorian helmet's very shiny, it's very smooth, and if we're going to be making a mold, we want to make sure that we try to get it as close to smooth as possible. So you're going to go through the entire helmet, adding this green epoxy, and again remove all the imperfections in the exterior. You'll see that once I was done, that I added in lots of this green putty, practically the entire helmet and all over the cheek pieces. And we'll go back to sanding using different grits of sandpaper to get that smooth. So again, I want to thank you folks for watching. When we get to our next video, we're going to actually be building our mold, and please like and subscribe.